Howdy fishing chums, how you doing out there? Hope you had a good week this past week. Boy, haven't we had beautiful weather. We have had consistent bluebird weather for several days. Kind of good to get out to fish in, but maybe not so much for the fishing. But not too bad. We have some pretty good reports for you. Still catching some nice crappie out at Truman, Pomme de Terre, still hanging in there strong. Good mixed reports from out of Stockton and pretty good bass fishing. I was out at Table Rock yesterday and had a fun bass fishing day and pretty fair over at Bull Shoals. I've had some pretty good reports of nice walleye being caught at Bull Shoals. So we have a lot to talk about. So thank you for being with us out here at the old fishing shack, and I want to thank all the viewers last week, around 12,000. God bless you for this time of the year. That's very good. And we're all just having fun. Let's just keep it up. Yeah, having fun. Now, I'm going to tell you, I do not have a hangover. No, I sound like it, might look like it. Allergies. Let's blame it on the allergies. All right, let's go out to Beaver Lake. That water temperature out there this morning, around 83 degrees on average. Tyler Miller was out the other day, and look at this beautiful striper that Tyler caught. Good going, my man. That is a beautiful, beautiful fish. And we have two photos of the week again this week because there's so many beautiful photos coming in, especially of the kids. I love the kids. Let's go to Nick Earl fishing down below the dam at Beaver. Look at this beautiful Briley. Look at this beautiful fish. Her first brown trout. Isn't this gorgeous? Gorgeous fish, but really a gorgeous young lady. Good going, kiddo. Good going. And our old friend Richard Lee Rusher fishing down below the dam. He catches them all the time. Look at this photo of his clients he had out the other day. And in fact, later in the program, I've got a good photo of Richard Lee's wife with the new baby out trout fishing down at Roaring River. That's really a cute photo as well. So the fishing is still good down below the dam. There's a good drift. They've been catching some browns on occasion, a lot of rainbows, once in a while walleye. So if you need a trip, get a hold of Custom Adventure Guide Service out there at Beaver Dam. Boy, good people, good people. Let's talk a little bit about the main lake. They have been picking up some stripers out there. I think they're on the flats. I've heard anywhere from 20 to 30 to 40, 50 feet of water. The guides out there with their electronics are scouting them, finding a bunch of shad, finding some streaks in them, and then picking up some stripers and hybrids on occasion. And the crappie are a little scattered out there, but they have, when they do get into the crappie, in about 10 to 20 feet of water, I understand, they're really nice size. It seems like minnows a little bit better than jigs. And the bass fishing's been good, not too bad at Beaver. They've been using swim baits, picking up some fish also on some crankbaits on the windy overcast day on the points and secondary points. Ned rigs, they've been picking up some fish also just mainly by swim baits, I think is the best thing overall. A little topwater bite in the early morning hours. Let's go out to Table Rock. That water temperature out there this morning was 82 degrees. I was out there a couple days ago with my buddy Andrew Everett, and we had a ball. I tell you what, I think we caught 15 fish, and he caught 12 of them. Yeah, took him to my spots, and he caught all the fish. There's no justice. But we did have a lot of fun. Andrew's good with that shaky head. I'm not going to tell you what color of worm he's using on it. Top secret. But shaky head, he caught a bunch of fish. Look at this nice smallmouth that he caught. You know, there's a lot of fish on the points and secondary points out at Table Rock. A lot of spots are out there. Not big fish, but just fun fish. Get out there and get that shaky head or a Ned rig. I'd recommend either one of these. Some people are doing a little drop shot fishing, a little deeper out, but most of the fish we caught was around that 15-foot range the other day. About all 15 of them come probably in that 15-foot range. And we did a little just mainly shaky head fishing, plastic worm, kind of Texas rig style fishing as well. And we did some force feeding. Boy, that's what got Andrew into that force feeding. Boy, that's fun fishing. So Andrew, good going, my friend. You have that new bass boat. Man, you're breaking it in right. Boy, you're getting some fish in the boat. Okay, Michael Ryan was out with his beautiful young lady the other day. Michael's a chummer. God bless you, Michael. You're doing good, catching fish all the time. Look at this beautiful young lady. Golly, what a happy smile she has. Kim McBride was out the other day, and look at Kim, beautiful lady, beautiful crappie fishing off the docks. There's still some fish can be caught around the docks out at Table Rock. Out on the main lake, back in the timber and so forth, they're kind of scattered, a little bit tougher. The spawn's over, and they're in a kind of a bad mood, but you can get out in some of the timber and brush piles, 15 to 20 feet of water, occasionally get in some crappie at Table Rock. And let's see, Magic Spot Guide Service out at Shell Knob was out yesterday. Had this party from St. Louis. Look at these beautiful fish that they caught. Good going. Magic Spot Guide Service. Really having some pretty good bass fishing out at Table Rock. Now, I mentioned the points, secondary points. You can use the shaky heads are good. You can use some Ned rigs. And as I said, out a little bit deeper, you can do some drop shot fishing. But they're also flipping some big plastic worms on some of the shoreline, the new shoreline. If you can get to it, some big trees, flipping or brush piles, flipping that big plastic worm, swimming it and dropping it. They're picking up some fish this way. Jig fishing has been fairly good around some of the docks. And I tell you what, also swim baits. Swim baits. Don't overlook swim baits. We were in a school of fish the other day and had a hard time getting them to bite. But boy, I wish we'd have thrown some swim baits at them. But they are picking up some good fish on swim baits at Table Rock. And finally, over on Table Rock, Mike Mann and Zan the Bass Man were out fishing the other day and picked up some nice bass on square-billed crankbait. Xander the Man. All right. Out of Taneycomo, water temperature was 49 degrees out at Lake Taneycomo. And I tell you what, they're not running too much water right now. That's good for the live bait fishermen because they're kind of drifting or using their trolling motors drifting. I tell you what, I would go with a jig and a half a night crawler, or just use a little gold hook, a little crappie hook with a couple split shots up above it. Use a half a night crawler. If they're not running any water, just kind of use your electric motor and just kind of bounce these things off the bottom. Also, minnows have been doing good out at Taneycomo as well. And they've been picking up some fish on little Clio spoons and small spinners. And they've been picking up some fish also on some power eggs. And it seems like your white or your pink has been the two best overall colors. So Taneycomo may be good for the upcoming weekend. All right, let's go out to Bull Shoals. That water temperature was 83 degrees out there. And I tell you what, Bull Shoals have been pretty good. It's high water still, about 34 feet high or so. They do have a lot of high water out there. But some of the water is very clear now. And I've had good reports on walleye the last couple of days out at Bull Shoals. And they've been catching the walleye mainly on jigs or night crawler harnesses, and they're getting some weight with them because some of these fish are down around 25, 30 feet of water in the brush. So if you can use your scopes and use your depth finders and find the points, secondary points with some brush, see a little activity down there, just hook yourself up a night crawler rig and just kind of with your electric motor bounce over those brush tops. And boy, there could be a big old walleye in there. Some good reports the last couple of days. They're working at it, but boy, the fish they're catching are real nice size at Bull Shoals. Bass fishing, kind of like a Table Rock on the points and secondary points. The spotted bass are up on those. You can use some swim baits. You can use some Ned rigs, maybe do a little drop shotting further out deeper. And the bluff ends have been pretty good out at Bull Shoals as well. And the swim baits have been good at Bull Shoals. You have to work at it, but I tell you what, you can catch some nice fish out there. Points, secondary points. And another thing, they've been picking up a few fish on spinner baits and also crankbaits on the windy days, overcast days on the points and secondary points. If you happen to hit a windy day or kind of overcast day, you might try this. And shaky heads have been good out at Bull Shoals as well. And they've been picking up some fish, like I said, on jerk baits and so forth. So it might be good for the upcoming weekend. Don't overlook that walleye fishing out there. Crappie's been a little scattered. They're catching some crappie at Bull Shoals, but a little scattered. They're picking up some fish over some of the brush piles in the average about 20 feet of water, but they can be tricky. All right, let's go out to Stockton. The water temperature was 83 degrees out there this morning when I checked with the boys. And I tell you what, there's been some nice, look at Sean was out the other day with his son and picked up, he's a chummer, good going Sean, and they picked up a limit of walleye, good going my friend, my old chummer. Roy Anderson was out the other day and picked up this limit of walleye. And Chris Nelson of Tandem Guide Service, he always gets these people in the fish. He's been out the last several days and picked up not only walleye, a bunch of crappie as well. And Corey Gordon was out the other day. Said the bass fishing, he's a chummer. Bass fishing's been good at Stockton, and an average of about 10 feet of water. And they're using some Ned rigs out there. They're using some drifting power kind of plastic worms, Texas style, flipping it up in the brush, bringing it down, and so the bass fishing can be good. They've been picking up some fish also out there on, like I said, shaky heads and Ned rigs. So try that out at Stockton. Now getting back to the walleye, they've been picking up some walleye out at Stockton. It can be tricky certain days, especially the last few days with this bluebird weather, not too much wind, bright sun. That makes it awful tough for walleye fishing. So if this happens this weekend, you may want to get up early in the morning or late in the evening, try it, because the main day fishing may be a little tough. But they have been getting into them, as we've seen. Sean and Roy, they got their limits, and there's been several limits of walleye caught out there on the points and the secondary points. But as we've been saying the last few weeks, start off deep. Use your electronics, come up those points and see if you can see any activity, see some shad and some streaks. Like get down there and jig a night crawler, kind of a half night crawler if you have to, kind of work that slow. Horsehead, roadrunner type bait, maybe a quarter or eighth ounce with a half a night crawler, kind of work that on those points. And some people have been trolling out there, flicker shads, and anything with a chartreuse tint to it has been fairly good too. And so try some walleye fishing out at Stockton this weekend, because there has been some limits caught out there. The catfishing's good. This is a good time. I tell you what time of the year you can catch catfish out at Stockton, right on some of the shoreline, off the brushy shorelines, and they've been doing pretty good out there with that as well. Okay, let's see, we covered the crappie are kind of scattered. You know, we've had reports of some fish being caught shallow, and we've had some reports of maybe 10 to 15 to 20 feet of water as well. Some spider rigging going on out there. All right, let's go out to Pomme de Terre. 84 degrees out there this morning. Here's our photo of the week. Look at this photo. Photo comes from Eric Massey and his wonderful son. Look at this great photo. I love this photo. Man, he knows how to take those pictures. And he caught this mess of crappie out at Stockton over the past weekend, and he's really been getting into the crappie pretty consistent out there. Some fish are still shallow, but most of them around 10 to 15 feet of water. Seems like jigging minnows. Sometimes minnows are better. So good going, Eric. And Steve Hodges was out the other day. Look at this. He got in some crappie as well. Big old mess of crappie there. Good going, Steve. So Pomme de Terre can be good for crappie. Boy, don't overlook it this upcoming weekend. And they've been picking up some fish, some bass out there on floating plastic worms, and they've been using some shaky heads off some of the points, picking up some bass out at Pomme de Terre. Let's go out to Truman. The water temperature is 83 degrees out there. Look at James. He was out there the other day with his wife. She caught the big fish again. She always catches big fish. Good going, young lady. Beautiful fish, beautiful lady. John Surface was out the other day. Same thing. Had his wife out. She caught the big fish. But the crappie are kind of scattered a little bit more than they have been at Truman. They're getting that summer pattern. So you know, there's big pole timber out there, the dead trees, the pole timbers. I always like to get up in there and fish that in around 10, 12, 14 feet of water. Jigging minnows are around some of the cedar trees and the brush piles. You can catch some nice fish out at Truman, the crappie, but you might have to go tree to tree, brush pile to brush pile, and keep moving maybe out at Truman. And the bass fishing's been pretty good. We've had reports of Texas rigged plastic worms. We've had reports of some shaky head fishing out there, and on windy days, spinner baits and crankbaits out at Truman. And I wouldn't be afraid to try a little bit of a topwater bait out there early in the mornings as well. That's the same way I kind of overlook the topwater bite. I slowed down a little bit at Table Rock. They're still picking up a few, but as we seen the other day, they'll just come up briefly and go back down. Then they just don't seem like they want to mess with that topwater bait. Occasionally they will. Same way with Bull Shoals. Small poppers like pop ours at Bull Shoals in the early morning hours, but they can be fussy. But don't overlook it. Always have a topwater bait handy. You never know when something might come up. Okay, where were we, Truman? Let's go to Lake of the Ozark. Blake Roth was out the other day with this beautiful young lady and picked up some crappie. Good going, nice fish. Matt Sanders was out the other day and picked up some bass at Lake of the Ozarks. And I have heard this the last few days, that bass fishing's really kind of turned on out there. Mark Warren was out the other day as well and picked up this nice bass. And I've heard on the bluff ends, they've been using some swim baits, and they've been picking up some fish on crankbaits. A lot of crankbait fishing taking place at Lake of the Ozark. Norfolk and the crappie fishing, wait. Crappie fishing's been pretty good at Lake of the Ozarks. They've been picking up some fish by shooting docks and fishing around the shady areas of the docks, and they have been picking up some fish in the brush piles in about 15 to 20 feet of water. Minnow seems to be good, but jigs, of course, can always pay off at Lake of the Ozarks. Now let's go to Norfolk. Water temperature was 85 degrees out at Norfolk. They've been picking up some fish out there. The stripers down around 50 to 60 feet of water. Don't be afraid to look a little bit shallower. Live bait has been good, and also spoons. And the walleye fishing's been pretty good this week at Norfolk. It seems spoon fishing and jig and night crawler fishing over some of the brush there. They've been picking up some nice walleye. Crappie can be fair, a little bit more scattered than what they have been, but don't be afraid to go to the brush piles and try for some crappie at Norfolk. But they have been picking up a few nice stripers out there, that's for sure. And we want to shout out to Greer's Ferry. We don't hear too much about Greer's Ferry the last couple of weeks. I've got a couple of photos from Greer's Ferry. I love Greer's Ferry. I used to walleye fish out down there a lot. Jeremy McAtee was out the other day and picked up this nice walleye. Good going, Jeremy. Good fish. Nice walleye right by that bridge. I know right where you were fishing. And I want to say a shouts out to my old friend Richard Lee Rusher from the beautiful Custom Adventure Guide Service. You know, they just had a new baby, and so he took the wife to the Roaring River the other day, and look at this. Now this is a photo. This should be a photo of the week too. That baby strapped up there, and she's catching trout. Boy, way to take that child fishing, man. That child's going to be a fishing. Beautiful, beautiful photo. Well, we've got some great photos coming your way on our photo roll. A lot of great pictures sent in this week. And if you'd like to send us some photos, if you're taking a look at us over on YouTube, you know, we used to have a lot more people watch us on YouTube, but they kind of went over to Facebook. But that's okay, that's okay. But YouTube, you can send photos in to our email at fishingchums@gmail.com. And be sure to like and share. And Kathy put it up there. You people that's just joining us over on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. We really appreciate that. Now our great crowd, beautiful thousands of people that watch us on our Facebook. Boy, I guess we have a lot of people. I tell you what, we're going on 3,000 people on our group. We're kind of getting towards that number. Be sure to join our Fishing Chums group. And that way you get over there and you can have a lot of fun. You can interact with other people. And we have this every week, people talking with each other about fishing, and it's a lot of fun. And you can send your photos. That's a great way on Facebook to send us photos and send it, and just join our group. You'll have a lot of fun with it, I promise you. Be sure to like and share on Facebook and spread the words. Be sure to share. Gosh darn, we have a lot of fun. Want to thank you very much for being with us today. Looks like it's going to be pretty good weather for the next few days. Boy, it's just really set in nice weather. And we want you to get out and get bitten. If I don't see you on the lake this weekend, I want to see you next week right here on Fishing Chums. God bless you all. Be safe. And Kathy, roll those wonderful photos. See you next week.